Today, we're diving into a single seismic year in film history, 1924. This is the story of how a massive corporate merger didn't just create a new movie studio, it basically forged the entire idea of the Hollywood Dream Factory. And let's be clear, this wasn't some grand artistic vision. It was a brutal business move, all about survival.
In this quote, it says it all. This was the famous boast of Louis B. Mayer, the guy who would end up running the new studio. I mean, what an audacious thing to say. But it perfectly captures the epic ambition behind the creation of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM. They didn't just want to make movies. They wanted to literally own the stars themselves.
So, to really get why this merger had to happen, you have to picture what Hollywood was like back then. In the early 1920s, the film industry was basically the Wild West. It was a chaotic frontier, fragmented, disorganized, and just fiercely competitive. To survive, you didn't just need a camera and a good story. You needed to build a kingdom.
Okay, so here are the three big pieces of the puzzle before they were all slammed together. First, you had Metro Pictures, and they were crucial because they had this huge, established distribution network. Then there was Goldwyn Pictures, which had the prestigious name and, more importantly, a sprawling studio lot in Culver City. And finally, you had the little guy, Louis B. Mayer Productions, known for making these high-quality, prestige films. Three totally separate companies, all about to get swallowed up by a single vision.
And that vision belonged to this man, Marcus Loew. Now, Loew wasn't some Hollywood creative type. No. He was a New York business titan, the founder of Loew's Incorporated, which owned this massive chain of movie theaters all across the country. And he had a very, very big problem. So here was Loew's dilemma, right? Think about it. He owned all the seats, but he didn't own the movies that put people in them. He was stuck paying his direct competitors for films to show in his own theaters. I mean, every single ticket he sold was basically handing money over to his rivals. He realized, I need to control the whole supply chain. And that brings us to Loew's grand plan. This was not about a love for cinema. Not at all. This was a cold, calculated business strategy for survival, and ultimately for total market dominance. He was going to build a self-sustaining entertainment empire from the ground up. Now, the business term for this idea is vertical integration, and it's absolutely key here. It just means owning everything, the whole shebang, from the moment a script is written to the film being distributed, right up to the moment a customer buys a ticket at the box office. To do that, Loew didn't just need movies. He needed a factory that could churn them out reliably, day in and day out. So, step one was done. He already owned the theaters. Step two, acquire the studios. So he goes out and buys Metro Pictures and then Goldwyn Pictures. But there was this huge missing piece. You see, Loew was a New Yorker, sitting in a high-rise office. He needed a powerful, maybe even ruthless commander on the ground out in California to actually run the factory. And that's where these two incredible figures enter the story. The men Loew chose to run his new Hollywood empire were Louis B. Mayer and his young protege, a guy named Irving Thalberg. Together, they were about to become the new kings of Hollywood. The dynamic between Mayer and Thalberg was the absolute key to MGM's success. Mayer was the visionary, this iron-fisted leader obsessed with prestige and making films that reflected wholesome middle-class American values. Thalberg, on the other hand, was the engine. At just 24 years old, this boy wonder was a production genius. He's the one who created the disciplined, high-output system that made the whole machine run. And this really was the birth of the producer-led studio, a system where producers, not the directors, had the final creative say. This ensured every single film met that rigid MGM standard of quality. And that was the real coup for Marcus Loew. When he convinced Mayer to bring his own production company into this merger, he didn't just get a tough manager, he got Mayer's secret weapon, the brilliant young Thalberg, who would pretty much go on to invent the modern Hollywood studio system as we know it. So, with the leadership finally in place, the deal was done. But the real work was just beginning. I mean, can you imagine the logistical nightmare? Stitching together three completely different corporate cultures, three different film libraries, and three rosters of competing stars, all into one cohesive titan? 1924. That's the year. This is the pivotal moment. The year a business deal hatched in New York completely and forever reshaped the creative and economic landscape of Hollywood. And you know what? the deal came together incredibly fast. In early 1924, Lowe buys Metro and Goldwyn. By April, he'd convinced Mayer to join the party, bringing his company and, more importantly, Thalberg into the fold. And then on April 26th, the ink was dry. Metro Goldwyn Mayer was officially born.
So, what was the ultimate legacy here? What did this merger really leave behind? Well, it wasn't just about creating some big, profitable company. It was about creating the very system, the factory, that would go on to define Hollywood's entire golden age. Under Mayer's relentless gaze, the studio moved in a very, very specific direction. He pushed away from the gritty realism that some of his competitors were doing. He wanted what he called prestige. We're talking sweeping romances, moral certainty, these glamorous white telephone movies that sold a very particular version of the American dream. And this is exactly how they did it. This was their formula. Thalberg perfected that producer-led system, giving the studio total creative control. Their vertical integration gave them immense power over everything, from the soundstage to the ticket booth. They built a factory designed specifically to produce these polished, star-driven movies. And the result? Nearly 3 decades of almost uninterrupted dominance at the box office. It was incredible. So ultimately, the whole idea we have of classic Hollywood, the glamour, the larger-than-life stars, the epic stories, that wasn't just some artistic movement that happened by chance. It was a product, carefully manufactured and perfected by the machine that was forged in that great merger of 1924.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Was the Hollywood dream really an organic, creative vision, something born from artists? Or was it simply the polished, inevitable output of the most efficient and powerful entertainment factory ever built? It's a question of art versus industry that not only defined MGM, but in many ways still defines Hollywood today.